Wellness and Wonder. Today with Sylvia. I'm going to make a little introduction before starting this amazing interview. Good cooks, like perfumers, learn how to orchestrate ingredients into delicious combinations without thinking about it, talking about it. Sylvia assessed her in-depth culinary and cultural expertise to introduce amazing new strategies for wellness that increase amazingly the health consciousness at the Hispanic culture. Hi, Sylvia. So nice to have you here.
Hi, thank you so much. The pleasure is all mine.
Allora, so Sylvia, I know your amazing story, but because maybe if you guests don't know yet everything about you, how does it come that you are so knowledgeable in food? You are the best nutritionist. You have an amazing experience. Where did it start all your adventure?
Well, you know, my parents were missionaries, so they were always caring for people and always, you know, the kind of people that were always giving to help other people. So that kind of like, you know, planted a little seed in my heart. But then, you know, my mother also was a nutritionist. So then, you know, watching her doing cooking classes and helping people how to cook, because a lot of people, even back then, you know, some people struggle in the kitchen. It's not a gift that everybody has. So, and we believe also that to practice good nutrition at home, you need to also, you know, be able to combine ingredients and be a little confident in your kitchen so you can make meals that are balanced. And I mean, not always have to be perfect. We don't strive for perfection, but we strive for, you know, having pretty good meals most days of the week, if possible. But when I was in high school, I remember one of my, you know, this is like in the United States, it's a secondary school. One of my friends was taking a culinary class, and they were with nutrition, and started these nutrition courses. And when she was showing me, it was like a light bulb went up my head immediately, and I became smitten by nutrition and combining the culinary skills with nutrition to really help people understand how to really combine the best foods. And that, you know, and even though my mom was a nutritionist too, it really never attracted me until I actually met with this friend of mine. I was always curious, and I liked the kitchen, and I felt like I like to cook, but it wasn't until then that I decided that, wow, this is really something that I want to go. And, you know, back then, I've never looked back. The light bulb went on and it's never turned off.
Wow.
I love it. I love it. I wake up every day and there's nothing more exciting for me than sharing my knowledge and my passion with anyone I can, especially people like you who have you know, such a platform to really share these knowledge with other, you know, with your viewers and listeners.
Yeah, and I can say, as I was a chef before and a nutritionist, not the same level as you indeed, I understand what you're saying. And also for me, all this came from a connection of my life. So let's remind our friends how important people are along our growth, because one person can change our life. More than a person is the connection with the person. So beautiful, your story, Sylvia. So that we know that eating well is like basically adding a value into our daily life. So we know that we are what we eat, and we know how nutrition is important, and it's become basically part of our lifestyle as we feed not only our body, but also our soul. You wrote amazing recipes. So all the experience you had brought you to write these recipes, or it is also your inner gut that is telling you what to write on the recipes?
Yeah, you know, with the recipes, it's really interesting because as a nutritionist, we are not really taught to really cook. I mean, you know, we talk about chemistry and the anatomy of the body and the physiology of the body and how things combine and how they operate in your body, which is really fascinating. But the culinary aspect, you know, the food aspect is something that you know, it grew and I learned it on my own. And it wasn't until I started to work for the Quaker Oats company for 10 years in the culinary kitchens that I really perfected those skills, perhaps, of how to really, you know, become more confident in the kitchen. Because I knew how to make, you know, scrambled eggs and little things like that, but you know, to really take a recipe or develop a recipe was not something that was, in my DNA. But that with time and experience and they giving me the opportunity to really explore and expand that culinary knowledge, I became then a little bit more savvy. And basically my thing is to make recipes that are simple, that combine more fruits and vegetables in every meal. Because if there's one thing that is the most important thing that we need to be more worried about in our body for food, is to eat more fruits and vegetables, especially vegetables. People are lacking, and those are the most powerful things that you can add to your body to prevent chronic disease. So every recipe that I have, I've always think about how can I add, this morning here, my 89-year-old mother lives with us, and I always make her breakfast and all her meals.
So lucky she is.
And this morning, I make oatmeal and I make it with milk to make it a little more, boost in nutritional value instead of water. Yeah. I add raisins or cranberries, or I add chopped dates to add a little bit of sweetness, natural sweetness. And then, I serve that with nuts, chop some nuts and other fruits into it. So, the more fruits and vegetables that we can add to a meal or a recipe, of course, is to the best. You have rice, I say, people add, chop some vegetables and add them. And especially nowadays that we're being so conscious about not wasting food. Because if we worry about climate change and sustainability, I think that's the number one thing, is transportation and waste of food. That's where we really need to focus, not so much in the other
I love what you said, Sylvia. Transportation is everything. It's trading of food, understanding where it comes from, understanding also the fact that during the travel, the product, of course, is fresh, but it will never be like when it's local. So it's so important. Right. Thank you for mentioning this, Sylvia.
So important to touch on that, because I think people worry about, how can I help? And I say the number, most of the waste of food happens at home. And I think, when we think about all the food that we waste, we could have gone on a vacation at the end of the year. That's that much money we spend throwing away food. And think about it, not just throwing away the money. Think about the people who produce that food. The farmers, the energy, the water, the electricity, the supplies, the labor, everything that went, the land, the piece of land that is used in. All that, they say the waste of the world is the size of China, and China is an enormous country. That is the waste of our food. So if we need to do something, is make sure that we don't waste food. And most of the waste comes in fruits and vegetables and also seafood. It's, some of the things that we waste the most at home. So, when we bring those vegetables and fruits at home, make sure that you put them at the center of your home so that you get to eat them and use them in your cooking as your, if you have fish tacos, I love fish tacos, then, you can add some cabbage, add something on it, rice or cauliflower rice, add, that's a whole vegetable in there, but you can even add more. I add lemon juice to that. I add parsley or basil or cilantro. You can add also other veggies as well, and even make it more powerful as well by adding carrots or peas or something, combining more. The more the better.
Yes, I have a question regarding this, dear Sylvia. First of all, I want to say, because I want to repeat it again, how beautiful is what you said at the beginning also, when you said that it gave you confidence. So it is not something that is in your blood, this skill of respecting food and creating food, but it is also a part of your growth and made you confident. So I believe it's also an amazing way for people to start cooking as they become more confident in their daily life, because cooking is about focusing and respecting. It's about adding a value. Amazing, Sylvia. Mm-hmm. And so regarding all these things that you said, I read an article about you where you talk about the art of flavoring food, but also there is the art of cooking using simple ingredients to understand and constructing flavors. I loved your article, Sylvia. So what is about for you the art of flavoring food with aromas and spices? What is it for you, the secret of it?
Yeah, wonderful point, Francesca. as a Latina woman, I was born in Puerto Rico and raised in Mexico when my parents were missionaries, and watching people really add all these bold flavors to food. And when you go to other countries like India, you go Mexico, of course, and other countries around the world, food, the flavor, and for anyone, I cannot think of anyone who wants flavorless food. Okay. And then the easiest thing for us, of course, if you go to culinary school, the first thing they taught you is to add salt, because salt flavors and salt really makes the food taste delicious, delicious. Now,
Unfortunately, it does.
right, right. Salt is easy, inexpensive way to flavor food, and it adds an amazing flavor. However, salt also has consequences. You know, too much salt increases high blood pressure, and it could create inflammation and other things in your body. So I always say, you know, un poquito, you know, a little bit could be okay. Like I tend to combine it. I have here in my kitchen, I have where I combine salt, pepper, and garlic powder. Okay, so I combine that and I use very little salt and more of the pepper and more of the garlic. So that combination is, it's an amazing everyday flavor. Okay,
Yeah.
but herbs, fresh herbs and onions and garlic and things like chiles, if you're, you know, if you like spicy, all these things add a lot of flavor to your food without zero calories. I mean, or basically hardly any calories, because everything has a little bit of calories, you know, even though it's almost calorie free. And you know, and that experience that you're looking for, that experience, that umami flavoring that you want, which takes you to that wow effect. When you're
Yes.
eating something, think about, you know, close your eyes and think about what was the best meal you ever had in your life, or one of the best meals. I'm sure you have several, but one of the best meals. And when you think about it, you know, it's like the flavors, the texture comes to mind. And when I think about cooking, helping people learn how to cook and how to add more value into that meal with more nutrients, I think about adding those foods that add a lot of flavor and textures into your meal. And of course, making them sure that you're boosting those flavors with things that are good for you and that add more nutrients into your meal without adding a lot of calories, salt, sugar, or fats, like saturated fats, because some fats are very healthy, like avocados and walnuts and nuts and almonds, you know, pistachios. All these nuts also have a lot of flavor and great textures, yet have some calories, some fat, but they are healthy fats. We still have to everything with moderation. I always say, no matter how healthy it is, we always want to have moderation in what we eat. We want to flavor, we want to experience those flavors. And I think it's the world, you know, our theme for National Nutrition Month here in the United States is in March. And it was called The World of Flavors. Knowing the world of flavors, because I think that's where we need to focus more, you know, on those flavors. And they can come from tomatoes, they can come from different, you know, mushrooms that add a lot of umami flavor. But it could add also by adding a little bit of cheese, could be a little bit of, you know, combining things to really get those great flavors. And I think, and then the variety of foods also, and the variety of flavors into different meals will also add more adventure into your eating. And I think the eating we should not feel guilty about eating. We should be grateful for what we have. We should experience those flavors with joy and understanding of what we're eating, and then knowing the nourishment that is giving our bodies. And now even a lot of these spices too that we know around the world, like turmeric, even garlic, and all these all, you know, cinnamon, all these amazing flavors,
Yeah.
you know, they also give you what, some medicinal effects in your body as well. So we're learning all these that not only adds flavor, but you also help in your body in many ways too, like decrease that inflammation that we want to bring down in our bodies.
Sylvia, let's again, we don't change the flavors of ingredients. As Sylvia said, we announce the flavor of ingredients. That's respect for food. And also, as Sylvia said, feeling guilty, it's really bad in the food world because we should be grateful. Sylvia, I love what you say. So as you said, to adjust and balance salt and sweet and sour and bitter, umami, fat and heat, it's all about transformation of the different cooking methods. So what is about chemistry of ingredients? How can we inspire our guests listening to you, amazing Sylvia, to find this chemistry between ingredients, respecting ingredients? What's the advice you can give them?
Yeah, I think that, one of the first things that we can think of, when we're studying, let's say breakfast, okay? So let's say we have a muesli, which is, people love, a cold cereal, let's say, and you make it overnight, perhaps, you put the oats and you submerge them in milk or whatever, sometimes I do them in juices as well, 100% juice. But then you can think about adding a little bit of flavor. You can add a little cinnamon or you can add a little ginger. I mean, think about the spices that really bring you joy and that you love. So that muesli could be enhanced not only by adding chopped fruits or chopped nuts, or like toasted coconut, but also adding that little pinch of ginger or vanilla or cinnamon can just round that dish to a wow effect. So think about texture, think about the flavors, and think about the combinations. How can you add more nutrients to that food without adding too many calories? And of course, in the past, we flavor things with salt or sugar or a lot of fat. But now we're learning that it's more flavorful, it's more fun, it's more adventurous to think a little bit outside the box and add more texture and flavors to that meal occasion that you're having. So let's think about lunch. You have a soup, okay? So easy to make these things. I always think of, just easy things. I don't want to complicate with too many ingredients, too many combinations. No. You have a simple soup that you start with a broth, which you can make from just boiling or leftover boiling vegetables. Okay, so you have water that you dip some vegetables, you use that water to start the flavoring, and then you add some herbs, and then you add vegetables like carrots or corn or mushrooms, things that will add flavor also to that broth. And you can add some meat as well. I don't see, I'm, mostly vegetarian. I grew up vegetarian, so it's easy for me to gravitate towards more vegetables and things like that, because I grew up vegetarian, and immediately makes it a little more creative in the kitchen. But, once in a while, if I'm, in Europe, or I go to Dallas, in Texas, where they have, or Brazil, or places where they eat a lot of meat, like Argentina, I might have a piece of meat in there just to enjoy and see how they experience these things and what they make and how they make them in their country. I like to experience that cultural vibe that they have from their food that they make and they enjoy so much. So, you can add a little bit of meat to that broth, and then grains, to add more texture. You can also add, like things like barley or farro or wheat berries or something like that to add more crunchiness. And these are things that are very inexpensive when you think about it, a little bit of meat, more grains, more vegetables, and you have a great meal. And then you can add more herbs. You can add, also cumin if you want to, depending on the flavor you want, Mediterranean, Mexican, or Latin flavors. You can think about, I have a little chart with like Mediterranean spices or Oriental spices or Latin spices, or Hispanic, whatever. So I have that. So depending on the kind of meal I'm making, whether it's Asian or Mediterranean or Hispanic, Latino, then I add the spices that go with that dish as well. So I kind of have them in mind. And voila, you have a wonderful soup. And then you pair it with a nice, fresh, slice of warm bread. And I mean, it's a wow meal with something so simple and so inexpensive. But that combination that you're adding, those flavors without adding too much sugar, salt, or fat, saturated fats, especially, that's what really gonna make that meal from just a meal to a wow meal. And
Exactly.
nutritious as well.
Yes, and while you were talking about food, you were talking about cultures, and it's so true. It's so sometimes boring, at least for a few people, to study history by reading it, while it's so much more interesting to study cultures through foods. So beautiful.
Food
And to
is
study,
everything for a lot of cultures. I mean, I think the way when I travel the world, which
yeah,
I love traveling, I'm obsessed with traveling the world. I think it's a way to connect with people by
yeah,
breaking bread with them in their home or whatever you are. And also, one thing that you pointed about cooking methods, that's another thing too that in my culture, we tend to fry everything. And that's, gets us into trouble because you're adding more calories when you are frying something. Of course, it tastes really good because it adds crunchiness. And the effect of that, it's delicious. So I think, finding ways to have that effect by baking it or grilling it or sauteing, something in the sauteing something, different cooking methods that give us that crunchy and that great effect that we're looking for. It's also part of the learning curve because we are very wired into just frying things,
yeah.
and we have to learn to kind of mimic that effect of that crunchiness without adding so much fat.
So true. Beautiful what you're saying, Sylvia. So much knowledge. Yes, I have an important question regarding fats and saturated fats, but because I read, as I said, articles about you, I want to first talk about the mango that you say has special powers, and I know spiritually for Hindus is a fruit that has the symbol of prosperity and happiness. So for sure, this fruit, it's magical in many ways. What is for you mango, Sylvia?
Well, that's one of our most favorite fruits for Latinos.
Mine
We,
too, and when I read
I
it, I
grew
said,
up,
yes.
you like it too. I grew up with a mango tree. We in the tropics, like
Wow.
islands, we have that, that grows very widely in our culture. So
Yeah.
everybody has a mango tree at home, and it's something that you can climb in and eat them at your leisure. And I have people who send me mangoes from their trees here. So I can experience that here in the Midwest, which we don't have that. We grow corn and soy here and maybe a little wheat, and that's about it. Not a whole lot that grows in this climate. But in the tropics, you have an abundance of mango. And, it's beautiful to see how different cultures, adventure with food. It means so much for them. And they respect that, and we need to understand that in some cultures, some of these foods are just kind of sacred for them. They mean so much to them, and they have a deeper spirituality for them. And that's a beautiful thing, because seeing food as a spiritual, I think is a beautiful thing, because really, as you nourish your body,
Yes.
think about these beautiful things that really bring you not only that joy and wonderful eating experience, but also it's nourishing your soul and your spirit and your body and your organs and everything better function your body.
Yes.
Mind, body, and spirit is a beautiful thing to combine that. And mango, even though we don't see it as a spiritual fruit like some other cultures do, for us is the center of a lot of dishes. And when you think about mango in like Puerto Rico or the Caribbean, immediately your eyes widen up like, mango. You want a mango dessert, or you want a donut? Oh, mango dessert for sure. And that it touches into a point that when I, as a nutritionist, talk about helping other people eat healthier, have a little bit healthier habits, which is how I call it,
Yeah.
building healthy habits. I always gravitate to the things that they love and they grew up with. So I ask them immediately, what are the things that you treasure more, that you have great memories? And then I try to make that into a good habit. So if they like mango, hey, you can put it into, cereals, you can put it into a dessert, you can put it into a mango salsa. I mean, you can do so many things in so many varieties. So I try to make that food work into a very healthy meal as well. And without overdoing it, I'm not going to say have mango every single meal, because we need to have room for variety. And the more variety we have, the more nutrients you have in your body.
Yes.
Because, mango has fiber, has potassium, has folate, has vitamin C. I mean, it has a ton of nutrients. But there might be nutrients that you're not getting from mango that you can get from a strawberry or from berries or from
Yeah.
something else. So it's important that we have that variety of foods. And that's what I think, a salsa, for example, that could have peppers and mango and onions and chili peppers and cilantro
So
and
good.
lime juice. I mean, it is just like a fountain of nutrients and flavors and colors.
Yes.
I can think of anything more beautiful than to put it on anything, top anything with the salsa like
Yes.
that.
And sometimes I get so upset, Sylvia, when I, as a spiritual coach, I also propose good food, and they tell me sometimes, no, mango is fat, and they say mango is good for digestion, is helpful for the skin, for the gut, for your eyes, for your heart. How can you say it's fat? I get shocked.
I know.
Sylvia.
It's shocking. It's shocking to me
The
when
ignorance of people.
exactly. It is so shocking when people get misinformation
Yes.
about something that is so nutritious and so delicious for your body. And I think, oh no, don't deprive yourself from these things. I mean, deprive yourself from alcohol, from cigarettes, from things like that, that deteriorate your body, and nourish your body with these things that are more, that really wake up your body to function better every single day.
Yeah.
And what we need, I try not to talk about the negatives, because I always think that people know what's not good for their body. And I try to focus more into the good things that they need to have, that they're lacking, that could make their life even more joyful and more nutritious, perhaps.
That's so beautiful what you said. The only positive, we already know the bads. So
Exactly. Everybody knows what they're doing wrong. So why even go there?
yes, but if you don't mind, I would love to go a bit deep, even though it's a bit bad, of course, because we have to talk about the bad effects of fats, but because many people, they don't really know the difference between good fat and bad fat. As we know, fat, it's also gives us energy. So there are liquid fats and saturated solid fats. I say it like this so it's more easy to understand, that as if we talk about carbon atoms and hydrogen, maybe people get confused. So what's the good fat, dear Sylvia, and what's the bad fat that we should consume, in your opinion?
Absolutely. And, people think, oh, we need to go in a fat-free, like we used to think in the 80s, that was like a big deal, like let's go fat-free everything. And we quickly found out that that's not healthy, because the body needs fat for the brain and for many different organ functions in our body. Fat really is necessary. Now, the problem is when we eat too much of it, or we eat too much of the wrong fats. So, as you were saying, there is the good fats and the not so good fats. And the good, like the liquid fats are the ones that, sometimes when they solidify at room temperature, those are the ones that are saturated fats. So we need to look for fats that don't get hard, at room temperature. For example, fats from avocados and nuts and salmon, fatty fish, olive oil, things like that. Those fats are very healthy and very good for your body, for your brain. Like, like the fish fat, it's got the DHA and the EHA. I mean, all of that is like very, very good fat for your brain as well. And when people are little, actually, you have small children, they still developing the brain, and fat is a really, really important nutrient in the kids' diet. So adding avocado, like we always say, like, one of the first foods could be avocados, could be tofu, even if you're, people are vegan or vegetarian, you can add tofu, because those are foods that are easy to they don't need to have teeth. And then at 1 year, they could already start eating, or even a little earlier than a year, they can already start. Some of the first foods could be avocados and tofu, because they have the healthy fats as well, because soy also have healthy fats.
Yeah.
So these fats are great. They have lots of nutrients. They have fiber, they have protein, they have, some of them have other essential nutrients too for the brain and the body, the eyes, and many other organs as well. Now, the bad fats, unfortunately, we can use a little bit, like when I go into Romania and they save the fat from the animal into jars. And for them, that's a delicacy. They wet their bread on that and they use it for frying little things and adding a little bit of flavor. And I say, you can use a little bit, un poquito. You can use a,
I love it.
un poquito, because the animal fat, those flavor more with the small quantity. So if you have the what do they call, the control to just add a little bit and not too much, it's okay to add a pinch of a little bit of the animal fat into a broth, into soup or something, that your sauce or whatever you're making. However, know that if you have a precondition for heart disease, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, all these things, that saturated fat is not going to be good, because what happens is, you have, your veins here. So let's pretend this is your veins, and, blood is flowing. The saturated fats accumulates around the edge of the veins and the arteries, especially the arteries, and then it becomes hard, because it's a hard fat. It becomes hard, and then eventually you don't have a good circulation of your blood, because it's thickening up in there, and it's not allowing for the flood of those arteries to get the blood that they need around to go to your heart, to go to your brain. And the less flow, the more high blood pressure you're going to have, the high cholesterol, high triglycerides, LDLs, and all these things that could go really high in your blood levels, fatty, what they call the fatty levels in your body. And eventually, that hole will close with the plaque and with the heart stuff, and then it's not going to let any blood go in, and that's when you can have a heart attack and many other chronic problems. But it's never too late. As you eat less of that saturated fat, it starts to melt. Exercise also melts all that plaque. Eating more fruits and vegetables, of course, help. Eating grains, whole grains like oatmeal. We know that glucagon, the cholesterol attaches to the glucagon, and then you excrete it. So there's many ways that you can do to take away that plaque that is rusting your arteries and vein, and not letting them flow the blood, and not letting them be elastic, because you want them to be elastic, and you want them to be very, very, so things can flow very easily. You don't want them to be really hard. Okay. And saturated fats harden those arteries and increases your cholesterol and increases your blood pressure and many other problems that could lead to diabetes and cancer and many other chronic disease. So more fruits and vegetables. I cannot stress the importance of having fruits and vegetables in every single meal, and snacks as well, and grains, and then having that combination. We have those 5 food groups.
Yeah.
Dairy or substitutes. You have the protein group, which includes not only meat and fish and eggs and poultry and tofu and all these other protein plant alternatives. You have the fruits, you have the veggies, and you have the grains.
Yes.
When you combine at least 3 of those fruit groups minimum into a meal, that's what we consider a balanced meal. Okay. So the more the better. But if you have at least 3, so let's say in the morning you have eggs, add mushrooms, add spinach, add tomatoes, and then you're already adding 2. You add a little bit of cheese to that. You have 3 food groups in there. You add a piece of whole grain toast. You have 4 things added into that meal. Same with the lunch. You have a quinoa, which is a wonderful,
amazing,
whole grain that it's so delicious. I love to have citrus juices, because I learned that in Mexico, they add a lot of citrus from oranges, from limes, from lemons. They add that wonderful flavor that is very powerful, but it's delicious. So you add that to the quinoa with some mango, and you add a little bit of black beans to that. And you have already a combination of like 4, 5 even, food groups into one single salad.
Yes, and dear friends, let's listen properly to what Sylvia is saying, because as we just said, food is medicine, so we shouldn't only eat to feel satisfied, but we should eat to feel energized. So let's look beyond the actual food, let's look at the nutrients and ask, of course, Sylvia, if you need to be creative, and look at the recipes, which are incredible. So the reason why I was talking about fats is because you focus your recipes on vegetables, and as you said, dear Sylvia, fats come from vegetables too. So let's replace good fat with bad fat, because we need fat, and vegetables is one of the main ingredients, and fruit for sugars. But as we know, we have to be very careful with sugar, because sugars is bad to aging. So dear Sylvia, I have an amazing question for you about sugars. Since we know that sugars and aging are inextricably linked, let's talk a bit about sugars, because we all need sugars as they give us energy. But which kind of sugars can be consumed apart fruits? Because we can find sugars in rice. So what's your ideal nutrition for sugars? Since we don't want to age, Sylvia.
We know that a lot of things that we eat convert to sugars, okay? Like either some vegetables have some sugar, some fruits have natural sugar, they're all natural sugars. Milk also have a natural sugar, you know, had the lactose, everything that ends in OSA, lactose or E, that is a natural sugar. So the milk products have a natural sugar, the fruits, the vegetables have a little bit of the sugar, not as much. What else? You know, carbohydrates like, you know, grains also have a little bit of that sugar, a natural sugar too, but that gives us the energy. Okay. Now, it's important because most of our diet, I mean, if you're an athlete running marathons like I used to run before, you need like 60 to 70% of your calories need to come from carbohydrates, which is basically sugars, okay? So those sugars, not like, we're not talking about a soda, we're not talking about candy, we're talking about natural sugars, complex sugars that provide that natural energy that we're looking for when we're running and we're doing things. Now, again, too, you know, we don't want to demonize food because sugar has a place. You know, sometimes when I have an oatmeal, I add a little brown sugar to that. Sugar is sugar. So whether it be maple syrup or honey or white sugar, you know, even though one has its more natural state, like molasses or maple syrup, white sugar is just a little bit less processed, a little bit less, but it's all processed. Okay, it's all sugar. In the end, the body doesn't, oh, that was honey. No, the body processes as sugar. So it's all sugar, but we can use it, you know, we can use the honey, we can use the molasses, we can use that in very small quantities. Just like I was saying about the saturated fats, we can use a little bit of the animal fat if you decide to season that. So the same with the sugar, you can use a little bit of it, and that's not going to be harmful. If you use a little bit just to season a little bit what you're doing. So in a dessert, I up my cinnamon, the vanilla, the ginger, and all these other things. And then I keep the sugar to a minimum. Okay, and then you add dates. And sometimes you don't even need any sugar because you can add dates, raisins, like I do with my cereal, and then I don't need the brown sugar. But if I'm at the airport and they give me oatmeal, you know, most likely they might not have cooked there in the raisins. So then I might put a little bit of the brown sugar because I like that combination. But some people, you know, my mother could eat, you know, sometimes eat it without anything and she's very happy with it. So it depends on your taste. But if you need a little bit of sugar like I do, then these natural sources like fruits, using your or dry fruits like raisins and dates and things like that, or using just a little bit of maple syrup or honey, you know, it goes a long way because actually maple syrup and honey are a little more concentrated. So then a little bit goes a long ways versus white sugar, you know, because this powder is more granulated, you might need to add a little bit more than you would have for seasoning the same thing. Okay.
When I see
that everything in exaggeration, you know, when we think about aging, you were saying, you know, at my age, I think a lot about aging and how I can preserve my, you know, at my age.
We all do, Sylvia, we all do. Having
so many decades already on this earth, I like to preserve, you know, what I have given. And one of the things that have a lot of collagen, which helps us to have more elasticity in our skin, is fruits and vegetables, especially the berries and mangoes and things like that. They have a lot of collagen that help us to really keep that elasticity that we need in us. So as we dried out, our wrinkles become more prominent. So we need to really make sure that we eat lots of fruits and vegetables, because the grains as well, because I mean, not tons again. I mean, you can eat a lot of vegetables, that, nobody can OD, overdose in vegetables, but in fruits, you can have at least, the recommendation is about two cups per day. So it's, you have a great amount that you can space throughout the day as a minimum, but know that these fruits and vegetables have a lot of collagen, and it will help you to keep the skin very, very healthy and looking younger versus, those antioxidants. They help you to delay your aging process. So the more fruits and vegetables you eat, the younger you're gonna look. So, instead of worrying about the sugar, I say, just go salt, sugar, and saturated fats. You need to be very mindful. Limit them. We're not saying prohibit them. We say minimize them, because they add a lot of calories. But know that the things that you need more are these other foods that are nutrient dense, that really provide you with other nutrients with nutrients that are more essential for your body.
Yeah. So beautiful what you said, Sylvia. And I want to share with you an example to see if you like it. When I usually think of sugars, because I'm an observer and I love food, I was a chef, and for me it was the best creative job, Sylvia, but I'm a Gemini, so I change job every 3 years. But for me, chefing is one of the best jobs ever, because it's about love and creativity. So regarding this, so I'm very happy I'm meeting you and I'm talking to you. When I was back then, when I was a chef talking about food, I was comparing the human body to the banana regarding sugars, because when we leave the banana open and peeled, it becomes black, and it is the same reaction kind of that the body has with the proteins, that it triggers basically a reaction, and the reaction is making it happen, basically is consuming the body. In this case of the banana, is the same that happens with our body, I think.
Yeah, and I think that, and what we call that the oxidation of the body.
Yes.
Okay, and you explain it well, like, right, like it's an oxidation of many things in your body. But what happens is that as you do things to your body, like every day that we go about in our life, we have exposed to smoke, we exposed to chemicals, we exposed to things, but okay, and that creates that some of your cells could damage, like oxidize, what we call it, that oxidation. And what happens is that the more fruits and the more antioxidants that you eat, so whether it be berries, things that, like things with vitamin C, that's a very powerful antioxidant, that kills those bad cells in your body. Okay, so decreases that oxidation in your body, that makes you look older, that makes you look tired, oxidation in your body is what we call inflammation in medical terms, is the inflammation. And when you have inflammation, you are growing bad cells in your body. Okay, so these antioxidants helps you to take away those bad cells and create new cells in your body. Okay,
the sugars are against this process, right, Sylvia? Sugars are against.
Well, it's not just sugar. It's anything. Because sugar, it's a natural thing, and sugar comes with the beets or comes from the sugar cane. It's not so much that one food. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's the many things that we do in our body every day. Because we wish we could say, oh, it's just the sugar. And we say to people, stop the sugar and you'll be fine. But it's not that simple. I wish I could say that. I wish it was the sugar that is super bad or whatever. But it's really not. It's really not that what's creating the oxidation. A lot of the oxidation happens when you don't move your body, when you're not exercising, your body oxidizes. Number one, when you are, people who drink a lot, people who smoke, all these things that is the most number one triggers. If I say to people, if you need to worry about oxidation, worry about limiting alcohol or decreasing alcohol completely, eliminating alcohol, and cigarettes and drugs and all these things, really, that needs to be away, because that is what's the number one thing that oxidizes your body. I mean, immediately people who smoke, who drink a lot, I mean, they immediately look 10, 20 years older. because their body is getting so oxidized. So doing those bad habits, not exercising, not drinking enough water. I mean, simple things like that is what, not drinking enough water, not sleeping enough is another way that you're oxidizing your body. I think, sometimes we concentrate on the food so much, and it's really, there's things that are bigger. You know what I mean? We have bigger fish to fry than the sugar. And sugar, of course, when you eat a lot of saturated fats, a lot of sugar, a lot of salt, that could cause inflammation in your body a little bit. But what really causes inflammation in your body more is having these bad habits in your, and it's interesting because I don't know if you heard about the blue zones.
Yes.
Okay, so the blue zone. So I went to school in a blue zone at Loma Linda University in Southern California. So we were taught how to really eat like the people who eat for longevity. So they study, the people who live the longest. And I used to think that people who have genes, you have family history of people who live long, that was already a predictor, a big predictor of how long you were going to live. But I stand corrected. 80% of your longevity comes from your lifestyle.
Yes.
Okay, 80%. And you know what? These people who live the longest, I was obsessed with it because I found it fascinating that these people not only get to live to 100 and more, but these people have, they were swimming, they were already, their cognitive function was amazing. They could read, they can understand, they could do multiplication, they can teach math. Some of these people were doctors still doing surgery at 90 years old. Incredible, okay? And what was so interesting was that these people, it's not that they didn't eat any sugar or anything like that. These people ate beans every day, a ton of nuts. They ate nuts. They have fruits and vegetables. They also ate, they exercised, they were active every single day, not like in the gym, but they walked, they did things. They have they also have a group of people to support, a support group, whether it be family or friends. But they ate, a nice, well-balanced diet, mainly of grains, fruits and vegetables, beans, lots of legumes they ate every day. And they also had a spiritual life, because worrying and having, thinking that you're so submerged in problems eats you up and increases your oxidation as well. Worrying also, and all these things. So they had a spiritual life to park, I call it, parking your problems into a divine person, who can really help you to deal with whatever life throws you at you. And I find, I was just last month, and this is why probably we didn't connect before sooner. I took my mom to California because my brother lives there and she had not seen him because of COVID. So we spent a whole month there, right there at Loma, around Loma Linda University, where these longevity, when they found the people who live longer here in the United States. And it was so interesting to see, I went to lunch with one of my professors who's like over 90. She doesn't tell me her age, but she's got to be 97, 98, at least, if not more. She's still driving. She drove herself to the restaurant to have brunch. We talked, and she sent me an email last night. I mean, and then she met a friend who was 97 next to her. She was, and they were all in different communities. They're busy. It's incredible. And I think, and some of these people were not vegan. Most of them were not vegan. And some of them were vegetarians, but not that all of them were vegetarian. Some of them ate meat maybe like 5 times a month. So it was all moderation. Okay.
Yes.
All moderation, and having that lifestyle that really was more meaningful to have good habits, the sleeping, the going outside and moving your body, the drinking water, the eating a variety of foods. Those are the essence of a life full of vitality.
As you said, having a healthy lifestyle is not about being boring. It's about being creative with food, exploring life like you do, traveling, exploring cultures, taking care of our soul and body with fun.
Exactly. We don't worry about having a perfect diet or having a perfect life. Who has a perfect life?
Yeah.
Who has perfect? No one. And we need to get away from that perfection that, I am never going to touch, fat. I'm never going to touch salt. I'm never going to touch sugar. That is just not humanly possible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not humanly possible. I've never met anybody in my 30 something years, practicing nutrition that doesn't eat fat, sugar, and salt. Possible. But it's about limiting the things that our body doesn't need so much and adding the things that our body really needs to function to full capacity, to have that mental capacity, that vitality, and that life spirit that we need every day to radiate joy and energy to other people.
I have a question from my friends, dear Sylvia. So how would they know what's the best nutrition for them? Because as we know, it's very personal. So instead of going to a normal nutritionist, of course, not everyone can come to you because you might be very busy, but in general, if we can give this advice now, because nutrition is different from everyone, as we know, we can have lack of iron, lack of energy, maybe we're too energetic. So it depends on how we are. So which is the first advice you would give to people? How can they listen to their body? Because I study with energy, I work with energy, and for me, maybe it's easy, and for you too. But for people that don't want to work with energy, and they don't want to work with spirituality, but they want to know how to read their body language, their need within, how can they do, in your opinion?
Yeah. And you touch into a good point, because nutrition is so challenging, because what's good for you, it might not be good for me. You have different age, you have different cultures, we have different genes, we have different needs. Every single person has different nutritional needs. So I cannot tell you what's good for you for another person, because you have different nutritional needs, and you have different activity levels, different gender, you have different age.
How do
everything.
They if they don't want to go to a normal nutritionist, because no one is like you, Sylvia.
Exactly. So what you need to do, I think the easiest thing, of course, is to, not so much going to the internet and listen to everyone out there, going to sources that are reputable and respected. But the most important thing is, like I think variety. I mean, when people ask me, some of my patients, what are the 5 most important things to be healthy? Okay. If I cannot come to you every day, and I say to them, get variety of food. So that's what I'm saying, the 5 food groups, including at least 3 in every meal, especially in fruits and vegetables at every single meal. It's key to having an optimal health. Okay. So worry about adding more fruits and vegetables, especially vegetables, into a meal, because most people are not eating them. Okay. And we know that decades after decades, people still not eating enough vegetables. Secondly, you've got to drink enough water every day. And it's not just about 8 cups of water. We need to think about, soups and other things, maybe tea, other things that we're drinking as well count as your liquid requirements. And that has gone up from 8 to 13. That's how important. You can go many days without food, but without water, hours. Okay.
Yes.
You cannot go too much without water, because your body is composed for almost 70% of your body is liquids, fluids in your body. So that's super important. If you're tired, think about your liquid requirements that you have, how much water you're drinking. For medicine, for many functions in your body that you're doing, you need liquid. If you exercise, you need extra liquids. And I don't say drink soda, but anything liquid counts. But I say, make sure, like I will drink a big cup and I put a little bit of juice. I put lemon juice, I put fruit slices, I put basil, I put rosemary, whatever I have in hand, I might add it to my water to make it more flavorful. It makes me drink it more. I put, a handful of berries, I throw them in there if I have in my refrigerator. I mean, anything that I have, herbs or whatever sitting in there, I add it to flavor my water and make it really good. Sleeping is another great predictor. People say that people that don't sleep, research have shown people who don't sleep well have, are more obese, predisposed to obesity, predisposed to diabetes and other chronic disease. So you got to get your sleep. Okay. And that's a whole nother segment. You got to have a spiritual life, and you got to move.
Spiritual life is the secret toward happiness, in my opinion.
Exactly. Without that divine intervention, we're really nobody. And I think these things combine, the sleep, the water, the variety of foods, the movement, and the spiritual life. Those are things that are vital, okay, to having optimal health.
Yeah, I agree with you, Sylvia. And there is a question that I hope you won't be upset if I ask you, but because
No.
I know the amazing value you have and the knowledge, I was super impressed that Coca-Cola and Kellogg's, which for me are so fake as companies, and I'm not scared to tell online, do you think, of course, maybe, do you think it was a way for them to do marketing using your knowledge and amazing fame to basically tell the public and tell people that the recipes are healthy while they're not? So what's the connection you have with these big corporations that are incredibly famous, but we know they're not very healthy? Why, Sylvie, they asked you to be part of it if you are the most pure, amazing chef and nutritionist in the world?
That's a great question. And many people ask me that for many, many years. And I'm telling you this, okay, these companies, like I say, Coca-Cola, they also make water, they have Dasani water, they have juices, they have a gazillion, they own all the beverages of the world practically.
Yeah.
Same with cereal companies like Kellogg's or General Mills. They not only own, like Frosted Flakes, they own Kashi, they own, and those are the things that we have created. Okay. So this is what we come into place. Okay. And when I started working, I started my first encounter with the industry, the food industry, when I came to Quaker. Okay. And I started to develop recipes for the tube of oatmeal. And a lot of those recipes, I developed them. Okay, so for them to hire dietitians, okay, this is where we come into place. These companies, if we do not steer them, all those new products that you see in the market that have more fiber, less sugar, less fat, we have decreased their cereal sugars by 50% in those cereals. The sodas we created, we help them to have the smaller cans. So people, because we know that people drink the whole thing.
That was your help, friends. Okay.
Okay, so we come into place. I don't gonna say as the police people, but we still, because we have the knowledge, we can help them create new products. We can help them decrease the salt. McDonald's, for example. I brought the oatmeal to McDonald's. I helped bring the oatmeal into the menu. It became one of the most famous things in the menu. For years, we wanted to bring oatmeal into a menu as of McDonald's, but they were not ready yet. The public wasn't ready. Public wants these things all the time. And when you decrease the sugar, they become very angry at you as a company. But we, as the experts, we come into place to do things subtly and to do things in a way, by decreasing, for example, the colors and adding beets color and things like that. We bring the creativity and the knowledge to make their foods not only to keep it palatable and desirable to the public, but at the same time, those cereals have iron, folic acid, folate. They have 7 grams of fiber. Some of them have 7-8 grams of fiber. I mean, we have done so good for some of the, for most of these companies when they hire dietitians. But then at the same time, people, when they see our name tied to these companies, they immediately think, oh no, they're selling, they're using them to sell the Frosted Flake. Not at all. You have never seen me saying to people, oh, you have to, I might say to them, you can, if you want to have more fiber, you can combine a little higher sugar cereal with a more fiber cereal. But we will never say to people, oh, eat more sugar. No, I mean, that's not in our, we're nutritionists. We know better. People know better. But what we help these companies is to really create products that bring more fiber and more of the nutrients that people need. Okay, and decrease without even having the public even know. And the reason why they don't publicize this is because the public will be all alarmed, thinking like, oh no, they increased my salt. And we do it in a very subtle way that they don't, like I used to do it to my family. I make smoothies with beets and carrots and yogurt and all these things, and they have no idea they're getting 3 servings of vegetables in that smoothie. Okay, they think they're eating a smoothie that tastes really good.
Because as we know,
cereals, they think they're eating great cereal, but they don't know they're getting all these great. But if they look in the box, they know that they have fiber, folate, iron, magnesium, copper, all these things added, to the cereal.
Yeah. So they used your angelic kind of approach to food and this wellness world to basically make it a bit better, because as we know, every product is not meant only to be good for us, it's also made for business and money. So let's not blame them. At the same time, thank you so much for being part of this. At least anything bad can be a bit better, Sylvia.
Exactly. We're here to help everyone, and
Exactly.
if big companies come, we don't make a ton of money from any of
No.
that. We're nutritionists,
Good for
so
the good.
but we help them to really, steer people, not just companies, the public, anyone who comes into to require our knowledge. This is our job. It's our responsibility to help everyone. I mean, if a company comes and say, I want to make healthier products, I will not turn them away. That will be irresponsible, because who do they go to? The people that don't have the degrees, don't have the knowledge, don't have the expertise in this field. And this is where we come into place to help every single person that comes into wants to make a better world for everyone else. And we are here for that, for the love of the game.
Yes, and friends, I would love to talk to Sylvia for other hours, but it's been 1 hour, so we want you to listen to the whole of it, and let's not waste our energies with bad emotions and bad food. Let's do like Sylvia, that is inspiring all of us to be divine, not only within, but also outside. And Sylvia, would you like to give the last messages to our friends, guests?
Yes. So, if anybody wants to get involved with me too, I do cooking classes online, and you can find me on all social media platforms under Sylvia Klinger, Klinger. Also, HispanicNutrition.com is my website. I have a blog in there. I have a lot of recipes. I concentrate more in the culinary because I love helping people how to cook, but I post recipes every single day practically. You can find me on Instagram with sklingerrd. sklingerrd, also Twitter at sklingerrd, Facebook and Pinterest. You'll find me as a Sylvia Klinger, LinkedIn also Sylvia Klinger. But you can just Google, Sylvia Klinger, and you find all my information. Email me, Sylvia@HispanicNutrition.com. Call me, WhatsApp, whatever. I'm here to help you, and that's my love for you.
And of course, we are going to write down all these details that Sylvia just mentioned in the writing part above the link of the podcast. And Sylvia, I really hope to discuss another topic with you, because we have a short time for the podcast, but I would love to talk to you again because I admire you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure, Francesca. Let's do it again.
Yes, let's do it again. Maybe we choose only one topic. Let's see the reaction of our friends. So then if they have any question, maybe we can go deep with a topic. I prepare my amazing questions and we can help them even more with you.
Thank you. My pleasure. Anytime.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.